find out why resistance is futile and how the art of renunciation can be applied in your life. Something that has been hidden in plain sight for centuries. It's so easy to believe that we're on the knife's edge of something dark, maybe even evil. But human experience and emotional well-being, when we resist our feelings, our fears, our challenges, we will find them intensifying. What if the secret to transforming your life isn't in resistance, but in something that is far more powerful? In this video, I'm going to touch on a very profound teaching that has been around for a long time. It's an ancient teaching, one that was decoded by Neville Goddard, and it's so easy to miss. Except I'm going to be teaching you how to use this ancient secret, which has been sitting in plain sight. I'll be going over how you can use this ancient teaching to shift your reality, no matter what the circumstances. Have a notebook and a pen on hand when you go through this particular video. I'm going to be giving you lots of notes and some actionable steps. And because this video is going to be crammed with teachings, I'm going to be doing a separate visualization video for you where you're going to take the art of this very ancient teaching and apply it to whatever you might be going through right now. If you want to break away from fear and anxiety and align your life to joy and gratitude, this is the video for you. My name is Fazila Bizior. Welcome to the Inner Work Mastery channel, where I help you understand how to apply the rules of manifestation, reality creation, and the many laws of mystical teaching so that you can become the conscious creator that you were always meant to be. Remember to hit that like button for this video and subscribe to this channel so that you can benefit from the teachings that I bring through for you to shift your reality. But this week, we look at a subtlety in terms of the law of assumption and how the art of renunciation can be a game changer for you. Fear, anxiety, chaos. If you look around the world lately, it's so easy to believe that we're on the knife's edge of something dark, maybe even evil. But what if I told you that evil, as Neville Goddard teaches, isn't what we've been conditioned to believe? And what if you could go from anxiety, chaos, and fear to gratitude, peace, and joy? This is an important point that I want you to actually remember whenever there are circumstances that are not going according to what you'd love them to be. What you see when you look at something is not about what is there. I go into more details in my previous video. What we see is not about what is there. Everyone has a different perspective, and their perspective is going to be about their own personal beliefs, their assumptions, their attitudes, their reactions. What you see in the world is never about what is actually there. It's about the meaning that we give it. Now you can see how this man on the island sees the approaching boat and realizes that's my ticket out of here. But then we see the man in the boat seeing land, thinking that that's his place of refuge. The meaning that anything has always begins with our own consciousness. This quote by Wayne Dyer says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So having briefly touched on this earlier on, I want to bring this back into context. In this chapter, Renunciation from the Power of Awareness, where some of these teachings have been drawn out, it's important to understand the context of evil as Neville speaks about it. He gives us a radical reframe in terms of the understanding of evil. It is not some external force. It is not, as we've known it to be, a religious or a biblical reference of immorality or wickedness. It is simply a lack of order or chaos. Where there is chaos, there's always the potential for order to be restored. So even if you're looking around the world today and you think that there's evil out there, reframe it, revise it to becoming something that simply lacks order. So if you're new to Neville Goddard's teachings, Neville Goddard decoded the Bible as a psychological drama of man. And he helps understand what particular teachings from the Bible are about. Now, this teaching is directly from a quote in the Bible, which is, resist not evil, Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Now, many people have had conflicts about this because the direct meaning and interpretation of this would seem to be that if someone has to insult you or cause injury, you should turn the other cheek and offer that to them. This teaching is anything but that. What this teaching is about is when you are faced with fear, doubt, illness, anything that may be an unwanted condition that lacks order or is in chaos in your life. Do not resist this disorder or chaos in your life. What you resist persists, and what you accept dissolves, was actually based on Carl Jung's work, because he spoke about this profound truth about human existence, about human experience and emotional well-being. He said, when we resist our feelings, our fears, our challenges, we will find them intensifying, because our struggle against them creates that cycle of tension and anxiety. And Neville says there's a big difference between resisting evil and renouncing it. When you resist evil, you give it attention. What you resist will persist. When you renounce evil, you take your attention away from it. To break the cycle of resistance, we must learn how to renounce what it is that we are seeing in our physical reality, in our 3D world. Along with not resisting, I'm going to touch on why you shouldn't react, align, or agree with whatever it is that you are finding undesirable in your life. Let's take the example of debt. The more someone resists having debt, and people will do this, they do not, on the rational level and on the conscious level, they do not wish to have debt. They will look at the amount of money that they owe, maybe on their credit cards or outstanding accounts, etc. But the more that they go into the avoidance of not wanting to look at their debt, maybe not wanting to pay it off, or they have people chasing after them in terms of payments, the more they create that reality to be that there's more and more debt created. So it may feel like it's a paradox, but the issue is that the person is more conscious of having debt, and they are not conscious of being the person who is without debt. Now, when someone reacts to debt, what they are doing is they have a perception, they have thoughts, feelings, and they have assumptions that debt is bad. And so they react in accordance to debt being something that is awful, that is terrible in their lives. And it further entrenches them into the thinking that they do not have enough. You know, this is a scenario where maybe they even come about creating or being able to have money in their lives, but they'll create some kind of a situation where they've got to spend the money that comes in. Let's say someone has a year-end bonus, and they have every intention of paying that bonus into their loans or their debt. However, something comes along, say maybe a health crisis, or there's an emergency, the car needs to be fixed, or something at home needs to be replaced. And what happens? They've used up that bonus, and they still haven't cleared their debt. So watch for this as well in terms of your reactions. And then there's the aspect of alignment. Whatever you align with, you will reinforce. So this looks like someone who has 2 credit cards, and what they do is they use the one credit card to pay the other one off, and then things get bad enough, they will put money into the one credit card, and even if they make some space or there's some wiggle room in terms of their credit limits, they are constantly treading on water as well. So that amount that they owe doesn't ever go down. And then the other part of this is watch for where you agree with something. Now, in the case of agreement with debt, even when someone decides that they agree that it's good financial habits to pay off their debt. However, this within themselves, because they agree and they consent to having debt, it's part of their consciousness. They will soon find that they are back to the levels of owing the kind of money that they did previously, and maybe even more. Now, I believe that debt exists, and it is something that I try to avoid, I resist, And by resisting, I've agreed with it. And so they find themselves back in the same old pattern. So resistance and reaction, alignment and agreement is going to get you further entrenched into the chaos, the conflict, the fear, the anxiety, the doubt, and the frustration. So resist, not evil. When you have any levels of anxiety, fear, frustration, etc., become aware to not just resist, but be sure to check that you're not reacting, you're not aligning, and you're not agreeing on the subconscious level. And this is where self-observation becomes quite critical. In terms of Neville's core teachings around the law of assumption, there are 3 propositions of consciousness that you must become aware of. So before you learn how to renounce the chaos in your life, these truths, as laid out by Neville in the previous chapter, talks about the following. So these are foundational to the law of assumption. So remember, everything is consciousness. Your state of consciousness is what creates your circumstances, not the other way around. Now, Neville speaks about this. There is no free will. There's only your freedom to choose. You are free to choose the state of consciousness that you identify with. You always, always, always have the power to select the state you want to occupy. So these points that I touched on, you resist, you react, you align, you agree. That's where you will find, when you can identify which state of consciousness you are occupying, then you can break that pattern. You can be what you desire to be, simply by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Now, those are the 3 propositions you should always keep in mind in terms of the law of assumption. Everything is consciousness. Every single thing, evil, chaos, anxiety, gratitude, peace, love, all of it is consciousness. And you are free to choose a state of consciousness in accordance to what you would love to have in your life, your wishes fulfilled. So the turning point then comes about. If you're still with me, I'm sure you're asking, if I'm not supposed to resist, what am I supposed to do? Well, I've touched on it, but we'll go deeper into this. You are to renounce it. Now, renunciation is not passive. This is a radical act of withdrawing your attention. Now, in the previous videos I've touched on, it is important in terms of your controlled imagination. Where's your inner speech? What is your assumption? You have to become aware of all of these things if you are to master and discipline your imagination. And so this radical withdrawing of your consciousness is a withdrawing of attention away from that which you do not wish to experience. And it is up to you in that moment to realize, I have been focusing on chaos. I have been assuming that chaos is real. I have been assuming that debt is real. I have been assuming that sickness is real. And you alone are the one that can break the pattern. So to renounce something means the following. You do not accept it has power over you. Now, when I was preparing this particular lecture, and I was preparing with all of my research, I realized there's something that I need to reframe here as well. Initially, I would have said you do not you reject that it has power over you, but rejection itself requires a level of resistance. Does it not? Unless, of course, you can reject it and detach. You do not accept that anything has power over you. Remember, you are the operant power. So when you renounce something, you do not accept that it has power over you. In the example of having debt, you do not accept that it has power over you in terms of the fears that you hold around having debt. You turn away from it completely. This is what it means to turn the other cheek. You must give your attention to something greater, that which is aligned to your desires. So this is what the true meaning of scripture is about, turning the other cheek. It is not submission. It means shifting your entire focus onto that which you would rather experience, and that is your desire. And so the Bible speaks about this. You give beauty for ashes when you concentrate your attention on things you would like them to be rather than on things as they are. In this analogy, out of ashes rises the phoenix. So in Greek mythology, the phoenix was the resurrection out of destruction. So when you now look at this particular verse from the Bible, what Neville says is when you give beauty for ashes, you turn your attention away from the ashes and you focus on what is the beauty that you would love to have. And that beauty is things as you would love them to be. So if there was chaos, what is the order you would love to have? If there was fear, what is the security you'd love to have? Or if there was hate, what is the love you'd love to have? Rejection, whatever it might be, what is that thing you would love to have in its place? You give joy for mourning. You give up mourning, and in its place you bring in joy. You focus on joy. You maintain a feeling of joy. You maintain a joyous attitude regardless of how unfavorable 3D circumstances may be. In the case of debt, many people struggle with, how do I focus on something that is joyous when my bank account says I'm in debt? Well, you start with gratitude. You start with the gratitude that I can still pay my bills, and wake up with this feeling of thank you, thank you, thank you. I woke up this morning and I'm in good health. I woke up this morning to a new day. And in this new day, I can be grateful that I have a roof over my head. I can pay my bills, those that you can pay comfortably. You have gas, or as we call it in South Africa, fuel in your tank to drive yourself to and from work. So find the moments of gratitude. Find what you can appreciate in your current scenario, because gratitude is going to change your state of consciousness that is sitting in fear, in anxiety, in chaos. And when you turn your attention away from that which you lack and you focus it on that which you already have and that you can believe in, you will start to see the shift, but you must be consistent. And you give praise in exchange for the spirit of heaviness, where you may be feeling burdened, where you may be feeling heavy. You bring in praise. Now, praise is to explode with joy. Now, if you can't explode with joy and you can't praise the situation, say you don't have money or you're finding that your bills are due, etc., you start with that genuine thing. Like I mentioned earlier on, what is the one thing I can be most grateful for right now? Are you overlooking the abundance in your life in the form of people who have turned up to support you? Are you overlooking the abundance of the connection with maybe your kids or your family members? There's always, always, always something to be grateful for. You are to start looking for the moments of gratitude, the moments of appreciation, for those moments that you can turn into something you can praise. You are able to truly live these teachings of giving beauty for ashes, giving up your mourning for joy, giving up the burdens for praise. You're going to find that it becomes that much easier to get out of a unresourceful state, a state of consciousness where you're being negative, and you find that you are able to shift. So when you are consistent with finding the moments of gratitude and finding the joy and finding the spirit of forgiveness in your day-to-day, you're going to be able to control your imagination that much more effectively, because you're no longer focusing on the negative. You have now, instead of resisting what you do not wish to have in your life, you renounce it, you move away totally from it, and you step into the space of focusing your attention on that which you only desire. And that's what Neville says, test the law. When your assumption changes from the negative to become in alignment with that which you desire, and it's a matter of you becoming the person who already has the desire. You must feel that this is a natural feeling for you, that your desire has already appeared to you. without seeing the evidence of it in the physical world, and you live from that perspective. I remember when for 2 months we were living in a space that wasn't in alignment with us. And I was very, very careful not to go into resistance to that space being my reality. I stopped reacting to what I was seeing in the physical reality around me. The circumstances were that we were not in the ideal house, in the one that was desirable for us. I didn't align with my 3D, and I didn't agree with 3D. I did not focus my attention on what my physical circumstances were. And every time my husband and I would have a chat about where we were, I would say to him, I'm really grateful that we have a place to stay. And we could have created a scenario where we wouldn't have had that temporary place and we wouldn't have found the new place. So it's always drop into the gratitude every morning when you wake up. Drop into your heart space. And instead of focusing on what you don't like in your 3D reality, in your physical reality, which is giving you data of that which you do not desire, take it as data and remind yourself, this is not my reality. I have a greater reality that is available to me. When you truly understand the teaching of creation is finished, you will realize that it is you that must become the state of consciousness of that creation which you think is in the future. You must become it now. You must breathe it. You must feel it. So it works like this. When you wake, as you are waking up out of sleep, you drop into the state of the person who already has their desire. And that's what I did on a continuous basis to manifest this new home that we are in. Is I knew that there is a vibrational match for everything we desire, and it's turned out to be even more magnificent than I previously thought it would be. So in follow-up to this video, watch out for my next video. A follow-up to this video is going to be a video to help you apply the steps of renunciation. I'll talk you through it so that you can practice the art of renunciation. I realized how important renunciation was when I went through this particular chapter. So if you want to do some further reading on renunciation, look up chapter 8 of The Power of Awareness. But I've provided you with the teachings here so that you can actually understand what Neville was talking about and why renunciation is so important. This might very well be the important game changer that you need to include in terms of how you manifest the desire you would love to have. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know if you have any questions. And my name is Fazila, and I encourage you to test the law and become the conscious creator that you were always meant to be. I will see you in the next video.